you feel like a hamster on one of those wheels in a cage when it comes to understanding how to use me, te, and nos? Like you're literally going around and around in circles. Today is finally where you break from the chains of frustration and unlock the secret to take you from choppy conversation to smooth operator in Espanol. Smash that like button as we get ready to break down this language barrier brick by brick. In this video, the pathway to fluid conversations is right here, right now. Vámonos. In this video, you will find out why you need indirect object pronouns, what indirect object pronouns are, how to use them, and the quickest ways to identify indirect object pronouns. We call them IDOPs. First question is, why do I need indirect object pronouns? So I'm going to give you 5 reasons as to why we need indirect object pronouns, but let me know in the comments below if you've seen these words like me, te, and nos, but you can't quite figure out how to use them correctly. Let me know in the comment section below. And that's not it. Stick around to the end of the video and I will show you a quick trick to identify the correct IDOP to use every single time. Here are 5 major reasons we need IDOPs. Conciseness. The purpose of using an indirect object pronoun is to avoid repetition. What do I mean by that? Give you the sentence that we used in our previous video in the series that we're doing on indirect objects and indirect object pronouns. The question or the statement could start off with, Johnny goes to the store. Johnny buys some ice cream. Johnny buys the ice cream, gives it to Julie. Instead of us saying Julie all of the time, we want to avoid repetition, and the repetition is utilizing her name. We also use IDOPs to provide clarity. We want to know to whom or for whom an action is being performed. And if you were with us in the last video of this series on indirect objects, you know that indirect objects and indirect object pronouns answer to 2 questions. We're going to cover that in a little bit. Let's get through these major reasons. Número 3, the 5 major reasons we need IDOPs. This is reason number 3, emphasis. When used alongside an IDO, or an IDO, or an indirect object. IDOPs, indirect object pronouns, can add emphasis to a statement. So we've got our first 3. The next 2, flow and naturalness. IDOPs attribute the natural flow of Spanish. Grammatical structure. Certain verbs and expressions pair naturally with IDOPs. What are our indirect object pronouns, our IDOPs that we're going to be looking at? Aquí tenemos some ejemplos. Before we get into, take a look and you can probably figure them out. La mesera nos trae las bebidas. Te presto dinero cada mes. Me contaste que tus padres te abandonaron. Those are some examples. So here are the IDOPs that we are focusing on in this particular video. In this series, we're going to go through all of our IDOPs and all of our indirect objects. Aquí tenemos me, te, nos. What do they stand for in Ingles? Me, to me, for me. Remember that if you were in our series, and if you haven't checked it out, I'll leave a link in the description below on our indirect objects so that you can understand where we're coming from. But there are 2 questions that indirect objects and indirect objects answer to. And the question is, to whom, for whom? Let's pull it up on the camera so you can make sure you understand what I'm saying here. To whom, for whom. Now let's get back to it. So we have me, to me, or for me. Te, to you, or for you. Nos, to us, or for us. If you're gaining value from this info, share it with someone you know that may be able to benefit, because learning these indirect object pronouns, or los pronombres objetos indirectos, are not something that you just easily can pick up. So if you understand what I'm putting down for you, make sure you share this to somebody else, and perhaps they can also gain some knowledge on how to use indirect object pronouns. And that is our question here. How do I use an indirect object pronoun, an IDOP, if you will? Let's take a look at some examples here. Key number 1. An IDOP is the person or thing that receives or benefits from the action of a verb. That's very similar to indirect objects, right? It actually is the same exact thing, because we use pronombres. We use these pronouns to what? First and foremost, avoid repetition. right? Instead of us using the indirect object, we're using indirect object pronoun. It answers to one of two questions to find out where our indirect object is in a sentence, and that's going to help us. And we can also find it out for our indirect object pronoun. It's the same question: to whom, for whom. Okay, so take a look at what we have here. John gives me the money. Remember, we asked the two questions, to whom or for whom, right? To whom is John giving this money? Our IDOP is me, okay? Same thing. Let's look at el otro ejemplo. Mary tells you a secret. To whom or for whom is this secret? The IDOP is you. Otro ejemplo. Rick sends us money through Western Union. To whom or for whom is this money? Us. So I hope you're understanding and getting value on how we find out where an IDOP is in a sentence. Now, stay with me here. Aquí tenemos unos ejemplos en español. Mi hermana siempre me pide consejo. To whom or for whom is your sister asking this advice? She's asking it from me. ¿Por qué siempre te dan las tareas difíciles? Why do they always give you the difficult task or difficult assignments? Nuestros padres nos dio la responsabilidad del perro. Our parents gave us the responsibility of the dog. To whom or for whom is this responsibility of the dog? It's for us. Y aquí tenemos los verbos más comunes que necesitamos saber cuando usamos los pronombres objetos indirectos. When we use these indirect object pronouns, here are the most common verbs that we have encountered with our indirect object pronouns. So we've got some examples here. La primera palabra que tenemos, el primer verbo que tenemos, contar. Contar significa to tell, right? Or to count, but to tell in this situation, never going to use it today. Prestar, to lend. Regalar, to give, as in to give a gift. Explicar, to explain. Gustar, to be pleasing to someone. We've been taught that it means to like. It's the most equivalent thing in English to the word to like. Mandar, to send, another word, right? So in contexto, if it's your first time here, soy Profe Don Omar, where I break down complex grammatical concepts, give you quick tips, and show you how to implement strategies of how to learn Spanish so you can speak Spanish now. If this sounds like valuable information that you need, be sure to smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you can pick up what I'm putting down, so you can get in on the easiest digestible information to have you using what you learn immediately and effectively in Espanol. Let's jump back into it for you. Now, here we go. We have Profe's power tip of the video. The quickest way to identify an IDOP in una oración o una pregunta, in a statement or in a sentence or in a question. Take a look right here. Mira aquí. Juan me da la pelota. Now, let's break this sentence down, shall we? Juan es el ejecutor en la oración. Person doing the action. To give. La pelota, the ball. Remember that we can find out that our indirect object or indirect object pronoun benefits or receives the action of the verb, right? So Juan is the person doing the action. Who's benefiting? Me. Now, of course, you are well versed in these indirect object pronouns, aka IDOP. So I know you probably looked at this sentence right out the gate and was like, oh, me. And that's great. But if you ever get stumped, because there are more than just mete and nos, but if you ever get stumped, you can always go back to your two questions, right? Juan gave the ball to whom or for whom, right? For whom is probably not going to be your best question, but he gave the ball to whom? To me. But look out. Always have a situation where you could potentially be fooled. So check out this sentence right here. Yo me lavé las manos para comer. Or if you happen to be in the islands, you might hear somebody say, me lavé la mano para comer. So what is your indirect object pronoun? That's right. It's not me. It is not the word may here. The reason being, this is not a sentence that has an indirect object pronoun. This is what we would call a reflexive pronoun because I'm doing the action to myself. This is something completely different. And if you haven't understood or learned reflexive pronouns, I also have links for those. I'll add that to the description below. We'll also add reflexive verb in the description below. I washed my hands to eat. See if you've learned anything. Let me know in the comment section below if you've gained value in this particular video. Here, I want you to add the IDOP. Jose blank envía $40 a Pamela y a mí. Pause the screen if you need to, because I'm going to give the answer here. La respuesta, José nos envió $40 a Pamela y a mí. José sent us $40. He sent it to Pamela and I. Okay, la última. María blank hace un favor a ti. María te hace un favor. María te hace un favor a ti. Maria does a favor for you, or Maria does you a favor. You can read either way in English, right? To make it make sense. So what are our key takeaways from today? First off, ¿qué es un pronombre de objeto indirecto? What is an indirect object pronoun? Make sure you venture back to the beginning of the video so that you can jot that information down. Número dos, ¿cuáles son los pronombres objetos indirectos que cubrimos? What are the indirect object pronouns, the IDOPs that we covered in this video? What are those? Let me know in the comment section below. Number three, what two questions can I ask to find the IDOP? And numero cuatro, where do I find the IDOP in a particular statement or a question, in a sentence or a question? Give me all of those answers in the comment section below so that I know you're picking up what I'm putting down. And last but not least, before we land this plane, I want to make sure you understand that we have this series going on, and you can check out the next few videos that come up after this. We're going to be doing a series on indirect object pronouns, direct object pronouns, reflexive pronouns. We're going to have all that for you right here. There's going to be a playlist with nothing but indirect object pronouns, direct object pronouns, reflexive pronouns, subject pronouns, all the pronouns in one playlist. So make sure you pull up and get in on that information. And if you haven't seen our first video in this series, indirect objects, make sure you pull up to this video right here that you see, and I'll catch you over there. Soy Profe Don Omar. Nos vemos.